Galaxias Chapter 2 is out today, and it was another good chapter. While this one was not as action-packed as the first one, in exchange for action, we get world building and seeing the actual world of Galaxias. And I'm not gonna lie, this is a very fun series so far. We're only 2 chapters in and I'm honestly having a great time. Now I know some people jumped on my last chapter 1 review for this series when I touted like, this might be the next One Piece or something. And while I do think it has potential to be like the next big action adventure series that people can get fully invested in with a wide open world, it's very hard to tell people that it's going to be like the next One Piece while One Piece is airing. I just did that more so for easier engagement because it's better to get people onto a new series when you either trigger them or give them incentive on, oh, but perhaps this could be like this series that I really like or something like that. So I had to do that mainly because I do think just based on that first chapter it has the potential to be something great. And this chapter just amps it up a little bit for me as well. But before we jump right into this chapter, don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. It really helps, and it shows you guys enjoy the content I'm making on the channel and shows you want to see more. Also, I am actually partnered up as an ambassador for Advanced GG. If you want a really cool energy drink that helps with your electrolytes and gives you great physical and mental focus while gaming, editing, recording your videos, or going to the gym, go check my referral link in the description down below so you can get 10% off your order, or go to advanced.gg and use my code GreekWeeb10 to also get 10% off their order. And at the point of recording this video, they released the strawberry shortcake flavor on the website as well. Go and grab yourself a tub, it sounds very delicious. But now then, on to the video. So, Chapter 2 of Galaxias, titled The Wagoner Town. With, honestly, we get this very awesome cover image of JIO and NERAID. It just looks really cool. I like the detail. It shows that they're already close based off this really good friendship that's starting to form. I like it. The art of the series, just great, and I cannot wait to see it evolve even further. But the chapter starts off the coast of the, I'm going to butcher this, Laniakia Kingdom, as JIO and NERAID are just having baseline conversations about like water, puddles, rivers, oceans, etc. But the two of them end up landing on actual land as both of them in excitement shout that they made it, as they got to land pretty quicker than they initially thought they would. JIO gets excited, runs up the stairs, turns the corner, and in a nice double page spread we see this giant, incredibly detailed town with all these different buildings stacked on top of each other, as we get to hear people in the background, with JIO turning with tears in her eyes to NERAID saying, "I really made it," as she is now out in the world starting her grand adventure that she's always dreamed of as a kid. And so she gets in the middle of town and starts just squealing and having a good time, just high off of the new environment that she's in, saying how there's so many people, how there's all these power lines and electricity is everywhere, and that the ground is so hard. She is just so enamored with being in a new place that she's almost just completely sidetracked until she hears a woman just screaming because NERAID got a bit too close. So yeah, he just went up to a random woman asking, "Hey, do you know me?" As JIO had to like slam into NERAID with her backpack to try and get him off the lady, as she says, "Since we are basically on the run, we're fugitives, you beat a dragon knight, the government's gonna be after us. So don't do anything to stand out if you want to get your memories back. So listen to what I have to tell you." But almost immediately, JIO just instantly catches eye of ice and just gets super excited over it. Honestly, JIO and NERAID are probably the perfect pair for an adventure because the two of them get easily sidetracked by things that just catch their interest due to NERAID wanting to learn stuff and having no memory, and JIO just wanting to be in the outside world and figure shit out, which I kind of find amazing. But as we are just dealing with the two of them right now, they end up dragging in attention from the crowd, as they're wondering, wait, is that a dragon folk? I've never seen one before. They're rarely around. As NERAID's like, wait, hold on. We're that rare? You can touch it if you want, as he offers his tail for people to just feel. As JIO just remembers, oh, come to think of it, Dad did say there aren't many dragon folk around these parts, so be careful. And so we cut to a bit later with NERAID having a cloak around him that JIO managed to find. And so she goes on to say that his tail makes him way too conspicuous and to wear the cloak from this point onward. But Nereid, obviously since he has amnesia, basically answers the question that us the audience have been wondering, what are dragon folk anyway? So JIO ends up giving a brief explanation of what the dragon folk are, saying that they're people who can use special powers. The Laniakia dragon is one of the 7 wonders of the world. They're unique life forms which are born with a tail and only in this country. And to be honest, I don't know much in the way of details, like when this all started or why it only happens in this country. Nobody has uncovered the dragon source from hundreds of years ago. The only thing that's certain is that this power was a huge help in the country's development. So already in chapter 2, we're getting some really good details on what the dragon folk are. People born with a specific gene that have tails once they're born with special powers, but it's only in this specific country, saying that Laganica dragon is one of the 7 wonders of the world. So that is what the dragon folk are basically classified as, and potentially that might be the original dragon, that at least that's my guess, that caused this phenomenon in the first place. And so there's something called a dragon source, which is the reason why there are dragon folk in this country. So this already differentiates where they are in the world, as in this one country that they're a part of, like the kingdom they're a part of, there are dragons out there, people with dragon powers, but it's only in that country. So that is a very interesting point to make. And so this makes me wonder what we'll see from the rest of the world if we travel across the rest of the globe based on this adventurer-like series. That is something I'm very curious to see. But when Nereid is like, okay, so my tail is conspicuous, huh? Alright, let's do this. As he then somehow retracts his tail, shocking JIO, and at this point she's more concerned with the fact that she basically got the cloak for nothing now. But she says to Nereid right now, to be blunt, your power is abnormal. You can change the shape of an island with a single punch. As once more she asks, who the heck are you? In a very serious panel, the two of them stare at each other, as then they hear a scream off in the distance. So I like how also the fact they're dragon folk, based off of the previous guy, Yerks from chapter 1, yeah, depending on the power, they could basically break an island with a punch. So that shows the level of power that these dragon folk could potentially have. And Nereid is pretty strong in and of himself since he one-shot a dragon knight, so that's interesting in and of itself. But from the cry in the distance, a cart is running down. Nereid unleashes his dragon tail and is about to stop it. But the boy is telling them to get out of the way, as apparently the boxes aren't even tied down, as once Nereid goes to stop it, the box just flings it and hits him square in the face, as they meet one of the town's residents, whose name is Polta, and that he's training to be a delivery man. And the reason this happened is that he got scared by a dog and let go of the cart, and that's how all this happened. After this brief interaction, they end up helping Polta recover the cart, set everything in place, and they walk with him to the next destination, as Polta basically shows them around since they're still new in town. Nereid is enamored by some random bugs he finds on the floor, and I like how Polta just says that Nereid has a pure heart, and JIO's like, that's one way of putting it, I guess. But JIO mentions something that makes me wish this manga was in color, or at least digital, that way certain parts of this manga could be in color. As she says the town itself is very colorful, which we get some nice bit of lore for the town they're in, stating that it's a custom. In the past, there weren't many people who could read, so they ended up color coding the entire town, all of the buildings, and the custom is still in use today. Which is honestly a pretty interesting thing to do for a town. A lot of people couldn't read originally, so they're like, you know what? Best way to differentiate things, let's just color the shit out of different buildings for different districts and areas so people can know at first glance where they're going. And I like this. This is a really interesting motif for a town, as JIO ends up noticing that the vibe of the town just changed based on the new district that they just entered, and that it's kind of moving. As JIO shows interest in the town, Polta ends up stating stuff like, oh, popular place to see, view from the mountains, the marketplace, etc, etc, as Nereid is like, oh, you're suddenly more talkative now. You really love this place, don't you? And I just like the whole smile that Polta does, and JIO goes towards Polta, showcasing that he's just an innocent kid that loves his hometown. But then they hear a huge crowd and people running towards a tunnel. And so they go up and they notice that someone is doing something at the tunnel. as Polta ends up running into his manager seemingly, as he states, "Your boss sure is pissed." As we see the wagoner, Harold, as he's yelling out for them to stop the construction of a railway and that it'll destroy their jobs. As the people in the crowd are like, cut it out already, it's already been decided, leave it alone. As Polta says, things are worse than normal today. And apparently this is a daily occurrence now ever since the railway happened, because now the wagoners and the merchants are kind of quarreling for about a month now, stating that the wagons handle the distribution of goods in town, but the wagoners are getting older and declining, so that's when talk of opening a railway began. If a railway came through the town, things would end up flourishing, but the wagons will become obsolete, so the merchants and wagoner guilds are kind of fighting right now. As the wagoner that is leading the charge, Harold, is just calling out to Polta, as he's telling them not to trust these merchants, and their cowardice is contagious, calling the merchants cowards. Picking a fight with the manager of the merchants right now, as they go back and forth with their whole argument over the railway. As he goes on to state some good points. Trains come through, it'll be easier to reach this town. You're just ignoring your own incompetence. Get with the times, you idiot. There are lots of jobs that went away. Don't go thinking porters are special. And the two of them are getting ready to throw fists. Nereid disappears and just catches her fists, telling them to chill out. And Gio is obviously concerned, being like, I told you not to stand out, what the hell are you doing? And also he's an outsider, so someone just coming in and doing shit in this very tense situation could potentially make things worse. Nereid does to an extent make sense, basically saying, didn't you know it's bad to make fun of other people's work? You can't take back something you've said. And you, some things are out of your control. You guys are neighbors. Can't we think of a way to get along? And while in the usual shonen protagonist way, this would get them to think, instantly, Nereid gets chopped in the throat, being told to shut up, asking who he is. So yeah, Gio just grabs Nereid and just begins to walk away, and drags Nereid with her, stating that they're sorry. As in Harold shouts out to Polta, stating, I swear that I'll protect your future. Don't you worry about a thing. Which kinda concerns Polta. Out in an alley, as they're just catching their breath, the group talks about what's going on right now, with Gio scolding Nereid for just getting in the middle of that whole heated argument between the two. Polta says he's sorry, but Gio says, come on, why are you apologizing? We should be the ones apologizing. We had no idea what was going on. As Nereid says, what's wrong? Polta says, the truth is, I don't want the construction to stop. My dream is to become a scholar. I want to investigate ruins. This job got me interested in the town's history, and made me want to go to school on the mainland. So I've been saving up money, but it's far enough away that I need the railway to get there. But when I see the boss working so hard every day, it feels wrong to wish for a future without the wagons. As once more we get a flashback of Harold just talking about how wagoners are the pride of the town. Polta says, I have no choice but to just give up. With Gio concerned with Polta, Nereid says, oh look, more bugs. As Gio's like, can you pay attention? But Nereid was paying attention, stating, have you told this to anybody else? Polta says that he can't really tell it to the boss and the others after all they've done for him. There are exams to enter and he doesn't know if he can even get in. Nereid flings, I presume, a rock or one of the bugs at Polta, telling him to not just resign himself while griping about it. It's cowardly. As Gio says, why not try talking to them? Something might change, you know? Obviously, with her own experience with her dad and her wants to just go on an adventure, she's always tried talking to him to a certain extent, but she didn't fully understand why anything was going on, so she's got a better understanding of why her father didn't want her to venture out into the world due to the various circumstances. But if the two of them just had a full-on honest conversation, it's very possible that things wouldn't have gotten so heated between them for a good long while. So, using her experience, she's trying to get Polta to just air out what he's feeling in his dreams, so that things could potentially work out between the people in the town who honestly want to do this for him and for the future of the town, which I think is pretty nice. And this fires up Polta, as now he wants to go and talk to his boss. Nereid also gets fired up and says, "You worked up the courage to talk to us. We'll help you out too." But they need to come up with a strategy for what they need to do next. We cut to sometime later as the townsfolk are still just trying to talk out Harold from blocking the railway with the whole construction going on, telling them that you're insulting us merchants and we're gonna settle this today. Also, I just like that this one little panel of Harold just in between 4 horses looking all menacingly. These horses have so much detail in this instance, and I'm like, I don't want to mess with a man that has an army of horses that look jacked to the gills. That just looks intimidating. But just as the townsfolk are just like, I really hope nothing bad happens today, instantly, some jackass in the crowd pulls out a gun as the head of the merchants in this area is saying, "Hey, put that down." But this guy, overly frustrated, says, "Boss, he won't understand anything else. He's holding up the tunnel construction. Why should we let him hold the rest of us back?" As somebody else tries to get him to put down the gun, calling him a coward of a merchant. As then he's just telling him to shut up. How can you be so shameless? Who do you think developed this town? But the guy with the gun ends up shooting, I presume, another merchant or somebody that's in the town, shooting him in the leg with, I believe, grazing him. As this concerns everybody in the crowd being like, "Oh no, this is bad. This is really bad." As in this instance, the manager notices, okay, this is very bad. What the hell is going on now? Harold just runs up to the guy with the gun, saying, "You bastards," as he rushes in for basically retaliation. And the townsfolk are like, this is it. The town's finished today. But it's then that Gio calls off from the corner, saying that that's far enough. As she comes out with sunglasses and a fan, and acting like she's all super important, saying, "Good grief, could you please pipe down? I finally got to take a vacation, so don't spoil my fun." As the townsfolk are like, "What's going on? What is she doing?" Townsfolk are just telling her to get out of here. This is a critical moment. You have no idea what you're doing. Why are you even here in the first place? But Gio smugly takes off her sunglasses and says, "I came to ask for work, of course." As then someone, Polta, says, "Gio, sorry for the wait," as a wagon comes off in the distance. As we then see Polta, but in an instant's hilarious panel, Nereid has a horse mask on all fours dragging a wagon. Has this kind of shocks and kind of disturbs Harold and the manager, which I'm like, yeah, I had the same exact reaction just seeing a kid pull up with just riding a guy like a horse. This is just so stupid, and I kind of love it. I like how instantly we get like super detailed for comedic panels in this manga so far. It looks really cool. Also, this really emphasized this moment, so honestly, all good here. But Gio then gets onto the wagon and says, "I was uneasy since it's my first time here, so I'm grateful you got here so quickly." As she tells Polta to get going, which Polta then takes a deep breath and then begins talking about the town in the general area, about the buildings, about everything, all the details that he's learned about the town throughout his life and through the job he's been doing. I also like how this important detail with how shy Polta has been in this chapter, the manager points out that he's actually talking in front of people. And as Polta continues his whole tour guide speech about the town, Harold is wondering why is Polta doing this and what the heck is happening. But the manager states that I get it. This is a negotiation. As we cut back to the day before, so we passed the whole day seemingly beforehand, so I didn't really get that from the initial chapter, but hey, it is what it is. Jill goes on to just, in her outfit, laughs. As Polta's like, "Wait, you want me to pick you up on a wagon alone?" As Jill says, "Relax. Here's the plan. The wagoners need a new source of work, so they'll carry the tourists who come here on the train. You'll carry visitors to their destination while telling them about the town's charms." And Nereid has the concern, do you think this will go that well? As Jill's like, of course. All of humanity shares a desire to learn things, don't they? This is work that only can be done by Polta and other wagoners, who know more about the town than anybody else. And so they ask Polta what he's going to do. As Polta thinks about his boss and the manager and says, "I'll do it. I'll protect everybody's livelihood, then board the train and make my own dreams come true. We're trying to turn the town itself into a resource. We won't carry goods, we'll carry experiences." As Gio goes on to state, now the wagoners' work won't disappear. Once the station is built, the town will grow livelier and it'll benefit everybody. As this starts to get the crowd kind of worked up. As the manager says, well, you heard him. Nobody has to lose if we go with their plan. So no complaints on my end. It's your call. You found a good apprentice, huh? As Harold says, yeah, that's right. And then rejects their plan with the manager stating, yeah, I kind of figured that, which shocks JIO. But Harold gives a pretty good point, stating that the idea is perfect if you exclude the unrealistic parts. Think about it. Even if this town's got some nice views, how many tourists are gonna come out to a place like this just for that? Even if things are busy at first, it won't last forever. Children always tell you the right answer, but those things are just what grown-ups have understood and given up on. Sorry, but I'm turning the idea down. As the manager says, yeah, sorry. That's fair. As even the townsfolk are like, yeah, you're right, there's no guarantee this will do well. As JIO's like, man, the mood sure got sour. What do we do about this? The plan's gonna go away. Now, I want to state this. Harold brings up a good point. This is something that any business has to take into consideration. Even if it's a tour guide. Despite the town being gonna be livelier, there's no guarantee that this whole tourist thing will last forever, and if it'll be just as bustling as ever. And there's no guarantee that the Wagoners at the end of the day will even keep their jobs to this degree anyway, even when the railway is built, with this taken in mind. There's a lot of variables and future speculation to take into account whenever bringing stuff like this into reality, and there's always going to be things that could potentially go wrong. That's how any business goes. Seriously, try opening a store in New York City. You can think, oh, we're in New York, it'll be perfect. Then you'll end up having to close the shop within 6 months. I've heard so many stories over my life. I live in New York. It happens all the damn time. Even with the most perfect plan you can think of, there are so many unrealistic parts that you don't really take into account that really does sour the mood and can potentially poke some holes in things. Polta then begins to panic, wondering what's going to happen next. How can he convince the adults that this idea is going to happen, and starting to think that this is impossible. But Nereid then tells Polta, what do you want to do? As Polta thinks about Nereid's words, and as Harold's about to say, if you're done, get out of here. But then Polta ends up talking about, at random, 2 dogs at Auntie Corone's house, giving some specific details of what's going on about these dogs. He then goes on to talk about each and every individual member of the town, what makes them special, what they do every day, all these finer details about the people that he knows about this town. As he states, there are so many good people here. I love this town. I love everyone here. I can't stand us splitting apart. Let's all change without changing anything. Catching Harold off guard, and JIO is smiling, stating, we didn't plan this. These are all his words. With Nereid taking off the mask, grabbing the manager and Harold, as they're shocked to see him again, as JIO's like, wait, hold on, what happened? There he goes again. As Nereid says, I said they wouldn't get it if you didn't tell them, but this will really get it through to them. As Polta's wondering what's going on, Nereid grabs the 2 and jumps high into the sky as this freaks everybody out. But as they reach the sky with the sun hitting Nereid's back, he states, now take a good look. These are Polta's feelings. As we get a beautiful 2-page spread of the entire town, the sky, the ocean, everything. And this is just amazing artwork. I love how not just the background, or everything. The entire town that's been drawn out is just beautiful. And I can only imagine how this would look with color, because this town is supposed to be incredibly colorful. So if there is color, that would have really helped this moment even more and elevate it. Once a series inevitably gets an anime, I'm guessing within 3 to 4 years from now, if this is still going and is successful, the anime adaptation is gonna have to make this look beautiful. But that's what we got fan colorists for if we end up getting, because my word, does this town need color so badly. But yeah, this is really getting it into their heads, as Harold ends up thinking back to his father, stating that my hip bone is broke, so I'm done for. The company is in your hands. As Harold says, but it's too much for me, father. What am I supposed to do now? As Harold is told by his father on his bed, the Wagoners are the pride of this town. Carry us to a brighter future. as Harold basically says, I get it. As Harold and the manager end up stating, sorry about everything, we're done fighting. We'll work together like we always have and give all we've got for the sake of this town. We're counting on your support, as they bow to the crowd, as everybody cheers, saying that they've got plenty of ideas and what they want to do, and that I've always wanted to ride a horse. So this whole thing, truly showing them, thanks to Nereid, the true beauty of this town, really did sell their idea. So they're gonna have to obviously workshop things based off everybody having ideas for stuff. But yeah, the plan worked to an extent. They just needed an extra push to show not just why Polta loves this town and everything in it, but to truly show to even the people that love this town how great this town really is by getting such an amazing view that they could take for granted. At least that's what I'm getting from this scene. But yeah, this is just beautiful as GIO looks over to Polta and says, it's okay, they're not going anywhere. With Polta tearing up, stating thank you. But meanwhile, we cut to someplace else on a beach as Yerks from the last chapter crawls himself out from the ocean onto the beach, stating, I must hurry and inform them, or the kingdom will be toppled. That despicable man is still alive. Talking about Nereid ending the chapter. Whoo boy, that was a real nice one. I really did enjoy this chapter. It was so much fun. I'm glad that in exchange for another action chapter, we got a story-based chapter focusing on the first town that Nereid and GIO visit, helping out with their little problems, and just getting some nice world building here in general, not just for the dragon folk, but for this nice, beautiful town that we end up seeing, and the relation that all the townsfolk have with each other. It's honestly really great and dives into some ideas when it comes to business, especially for a huge area, a town specifically. It's very nice. It's a little detail that not too many series tend to get into when it's even if it's an adventure series. So I'm really glad that we took some time for this chapter to really dive into things. And with the stinger at the end, with Yerks still being around, obviously still broken and beaten from Nereid's attack, talking about how Nereid, a despicable man, is still alive, adding more into the mystery of Nereid and who he truly is. A lot of people think that he might be Yuri, just a different appearance. That's very possible. Or perhaps he's related to Yuri in some other way, or perhaps he's even the king of the nation, perhaps, just has amnesia and not assassinated, but perhaps the Dragon Knights, or maybe there's a coup d'etat. There's a whole lot of things to really take into consideration on who Nereid is. For all we know, the whole talk about the dragon or the dragon source might be referring to Nereid as well, for all we know. There's just a whole lot to talk about and consider with everything we've learned from this chapter. But that's going to be it for me. Honestly, there's another long chapter, so another long chapter review, but this is a weekly series, so the chapter's going to go back to their usual standard chapter rate at some point. But until then, I can't wait for more, and the reviews might probably be around this length anyway until we get shorter chapters to the usual chapter number. But what do you guys think of this chapter? Are you excited for the future of the series? How do you feel about these mysteries and world building elements that we got within this chapter? Leave your thoughts and opinions in the comment section down below. And if you haven't already, like and subscribe, hit the notification bell for updates on future videos. Really helps. It's just guys enjoy the content I make on the channel and shows you want to see more. And once more, check out my referral link in the description down below to get 10% off an order of Advanced GG, any flavor you want. And I do recommend the new flavor that we just got in now, the strawberry shortcake. But with all that said and done, I hope you guys enjoyed the video, and I hope you all have an awesome day.